people, how have you been? So, I will tell a little bit about myself because I know I disappeared from the channel. My name is Kathleen, I'm Brazilian, and I love reading. And I created this channel in English. Here I'm using my complete name, Kathleen Paneto, because I have a channel in Portuguese where I use my maiden name, Kathleen Carramanhos. But since I love talking about reading and books, I decided that I wanted to create content in English too because I don't know, I feel like my channel in Portuguese, I have been like creating content for it for 5 years now. It's almost 6 years. And I feel like even though Brazil has like almost 200 million people or over 200 million people, not a lot of people in Brazil read. Like a very small percentage of people in Brazil read. So even the big booktubers in Brazil, they don't have big numbers. So I don't know. I just create content in Portuguese for so long, and I still can't even apply to the AdSense program. And a few years ago, I opened this channel in English, but at the same time that I wanted the channel to succeed, I was also so embarrassed to create content in English because I don't know, I'm not a native English speaker, so I know that I will always have an accent and I can make mistakes because it's not my native language. So I don't know, I just don't feel as comfortable creating in English as I feel in Portuguese. Of course, I think it's natural for everybody who, I don't know, wants to create content in a second language, but I'll do my best. So I will start the video asking you, if you are a native English speaker, please go easy on me. I will probably make like some mistakes here and there, but I'll do my best to correct myself. If I notice that I'm making a mistake, I will try to correct myself and go back and say it better or correct my pronunciation. If I perceive that I'm making a mistake, I would try to correct myself. But like, keep in mind, English is not my native language, even though I do my best. Here in Brazil, I speak English well enough to be able to teach other people, like other Brazilian people, because usually people here in Brazil don't speak English. It's not very common. I think younger generations are speaking English more, like are trying to learn English more often than the older generation here in Brazil because they need to speak English to get a better job, like if they are engineers or doctors. Like a lot of professions need now, they require you to speak English in order to have a better position in your company. So I can teach English for Brazilian people, but I'm not an English teacher for English native speakers. I went to college and I majored in English and English literature, but I will always speak English as a second language, even though I do my best to learn and improve. I feel like I will always have an accent, and I mean, it's okay, but I wanted to talk about it because there is over a year that I stopped like creating videos for this channel in English because I was so scared of the judgment. Like, oh my god, people will come. Like, if the channel one day grows, people will come and people will comment on like, oh my god, you're English, you sound this and you sound like that. So I don't know, I'm very, very, very scared of online hate. That's why I stopped creating videos in English, but I need to stop being scared. It's just a video, I'm not offending anyone. I will talk about books, and in case like I feel like, or in case you guys are interested, I can comment on other topics. Like, I will summarize what I do on my main channel in Portuguese. I have like 5 videos per week. On Monday, I teach in reading in English. So every video on Monday is like me trying to teach Brazilian people specifically how to read better in English. Like I'm not teaching native speakers. I'm teaching Brazilians, so it is their second language too. So I'm just like, since I know a little bit more than the average person, I try to help people. So it's more like a mission for me, like, oh, I have this knowledge, I know enough to try to help people. So I just teach reading English every Monday. It's free, like it's free on YouTube. Anybody who doesn't speak like fluent English can watch, but I think you will like grasp the content better if you know how to speak Portuguese, because I speak mostly Portuguese and then I read in English to help with the pronunciation and everything. I do the best that I can. And then every Wednesday on my main channel, I post about books. So every Wednesday is like Book Wednesday, or I talk about my experience reading a specific book, or I post a vlog about me going to a bookstore or going to a book fair or like an event related to books, or the monthly summary. I always post like at the end of every month. I post like a monthly summary, like what I read during that month, and what I bought, like the new books that I bought and everything. So every Friday I post reading Anne of Green Gables. I'm reading every Friday a chapter from the book. I will mention the book here again because it's one of the books that I'm going to show you, because I will show you guys the books that I'm reading and the new books that I got in English. The new books, I will only show the books that I bought in English, because I bought so many books lately, but most of them are in Portuguese and it's difficult to know what is the like name in English, because not all of them are from like native English speakers. So sometimes, for example, the original name is in French or in Italian or in Portuguese, and sometimes they don't even have a translation in English. For example, some Brazilian writers, they weren't translated into English again yet. They weren't translated into English yet, so like I can't actually translate. So I will show you the books that I'm reading and the new books that I bought that are in English. But yeah, every Friday on my Portuguese, on my main channel, on my Portuguese channel, I post one chapter of me reading Anne of Green Gables. And then every Friday is Learn English with Music. So every Friday I post myself teaching how to sing, because it's not a singing lesson, it's an English lesson. So I just help people learn how to pronounce the words of the music in English. And it's always Taylor Swift, because I'm a big Swiftie. So every Saturday I choose one of Taylor's songs, and then I help Brazilians, like Brazilian Swifties, to learn the lyrics in English. So it's another like lesson, but it's very informal and it's very like, I make a lot of commentary on what I think, like my theories on what I think the lyrics about, but I also focus on teaching them how to pronounce the words so they can sing with the song. And every Sunday is my podcast. I call it Podcat because my name is Kathleen, like K-E-T is the like Podcat. Yeah, I know it's not very creative, but it was like what I could do at the time that I created the podcast. Like it's a video cast actually. It's not just the sound, it's the sound and the video. So every Sunday morning I post a video cast on my main channel. So for now, since I'm still embarrassed to continue creating content in English, I will try to post once a week. So yeah, I will start talking about books and we'll see how it's going to develop in the future. But yeah, so let's start with the books that I'm reading. So right now I'm reading the first book of, I think in English you guys say the name in French, Les Miserables, but in Portuguese is Os Miseráveis, so Les Miserables in French. I don't speak French, guys, I don't. I don't. But yes, is Victor Hugo's most famous book, I think. So here in Brazil, the edition comes like this. It's a Penguin Classics, as you can see. It's a Penguin Classics edition, and it comes with like this box, and then it comes with two books. This one is the second book, and I'm currently reading the first book. I will show you guys again. So this is the first part of Les Miserables. I will say like this because, you know, I don't actually know if there is like a translation into English, because every time that I've seen any like actor, like American actor talking about it, they try to say it in French. So I would just reproduce, like I would just say how I've heard people saying it, but I know it's in French. So yes, I am in the middle of the first book. I'm enjoying this book so much. It's so well written. I'm on page 488. And yeah, I am in the part of the story where Fantine's story has a conclusion. I'm not going to spoil it and tell exactly what happens to her, but if you've read the book, you know what happens to her. So Fantine has the conclusion of her story, and then the book, and then the next chapter is about Cosette, and Cosette is Fantine's daughter. And I still need to like actually start reading about Cosette's story, because right now, like, the narrator is just talking about the Waterloo war. So it's just about the war, not the war, but the battle, the Waterloo battle. So he's describing in like details the Waterloo battle, and it's very interesting. The book so far is so well written and so interesting. I thought it was going to be difficult to read because I was scared, mainly because of the size, but also because people say so many nice things about this classic that I thought, oh my god, it's going to be hard. But it's not. Like, this story is easy to read. The way that the narrator speaks is very easy to understand. It's not complicated. The language in the book's easy, but it's a very detailed story. Like, you know everything about the character, like everything. It starts talking about the bishop, and then it talks about Jean Valjean, and then Fantine. So like every character that enters the story, you will know everything about like them. But it's not boring. It's another thing that I think great writers can do. They know how to give you a lot of detail without boring you to death. So the book's very good. It's like this big adventure, and the lives of these characters, they like are linked somehow. They come to meet each other, I guess. So like really enjoying, but I still have a long way to go. So the other book that I am reading is Anne of Green Gables. I've never read her story. I know it's a Canadian story. It's so cute. I'm going to start chapter number 7. I'm on page 59, and I'm reading one chapter a week and posting it on my main channel. It's so fun and so cute. I started, like, when the story was starting, I got a little bit irritated with Anne. Like, she talks so much. Like, she never stops talking. But then, as the story progressed, I got to, like, fall for her the same way that Matthew and Marilla fell for her. Like, she's a very imaginative and cute and intelligent little girl, and her story is so sad. Like, what happened to her parents is so sad. So yeah, I think the more you read about her, the more you fall in love with her. It's so cute. So yeah, it's another book that I'm currently reading. And the third and last book that I'm reading right now is Independent People by Halder Laxness. This book's from Iceland. And on my main channel, one of the challenges, I think I can say challenges I'm doing is around the world in 50 books. So I'm only going to read 50 books. I know it's not all the countries out there, it's only 50 countries, but it's a nice challenge. And the guide that I got from the challenge recommended is this one. So this is the book I'm going to read for Iceland. It's very nice, like it's very interesting. The way it's written, it's very interesting too. I'm on page 28. So yes, I hope I can read more. This is the book I'm focusing more now because I want to finish it to continue the challenge. But it is a big book. It is a big book, and it's also like the way that it talks about magic, because there are some like entities here, because this book is from the beginning of the 1900s, like the story is in the beginning of the 1900s. So like the way that those people believe in like entities and magic and being cursed, so the vocabulary is a bit different than what I'm used to reading in English, but I'm getting used to it. Like, and also what is the hardest in this book is all the name of the places in Icelandic. So it's not even English, because this book is a translation. The original is in Icelandic. So they translated it into English, and I'm reading the translation in English, okay? I'm not reading it in Portuguese because the Portuguese version was so expensive. This one was way cheaper. So I got it in English. And now I will show you the latest books that I bought in English that I want to read as soon as possible. So the first book that I bought that I'm going to show you is The Adventure of English, The Biography of a Language by Melvyn Bragg. This book is by a British author, and it is the story of the English language, like how it came to be the English that we speak nowadays. Like it's going to talk about the entire history, like since the Nordic people and the Saxons, and then when, oh my god, what's the name of the people that spoke French? The Normandic, I think Normandic people invaded that region, and then it changed English a little bit, and then fast forward, Shakespeare, like a brilliant writer who helped shape English as we speak now. So it's going to go through, this book's going to talk about the entire history of the English language. And this is the source material of a documentary that I've seen, a BBC documentary. I will link the documentary in the description of this video. It's very interesting. I think it's 8 or 9 episodes, the documentary. And it's very complete, but it's an old documentary, so you will watch it in like a square and like really like bad image, but the content that you will like, what you will learn from the documentary is very interesting and important. So if you speak English as a native speaker, or if you are learning English, I will recommend you to go and watch the documentary or read the source material, because this is the source material for the documentary. I really want to read it as a teacher. I think it's very important for me to know the history of the language that I teach, because it explains a lot for students. Like sometimes they ask me like, oh, why this is the pronunciation for this syllable, but this syllable that is equal in this other word is different. It doesn't make any sense, because in Portuguese the syllables, they always make the same sound. For example, in Portuguese, B and A, like it's always the same sound. B and A's ba is always the same sound. Like B and E is always be, so it's ba, be, be. It's always the same sound, and in English it's not. So in English, you can have the same syllable with like 3 or 4 different pronunciations for that. So it's nice to learn the history to know how to explain. Usually, the explanation is how the word was, like, the historical moment it was created or where the word comes from. For example, the fruits that came from Spain, the names of the fruits are from Spanish, like banana, avocado, like the documentary talks about it, so that's why that's how I know it. And then there are words, for example, the animals, like why the meat is pork but the animal is pig. Like my students, they always asked me and I never knew like why, and then it's because of history. Like when the people from Normandy invaded the British island, they spoke French, and they were the elite, like they were the rich people, not the elite because at that time they had a king, so they were like the court, like the very fancy people who had connections to the king. They were living there, they were speaking French, and they didn't have contact with the animals. They only had contact with the meat because they didn't prepare the food. They didn't have to kill the animal. So pork comes from French because it's the meat. But then people who were speaking archaic or old English, they were dealing with the animals because they were the servants. So they used to speak pig. So pig is the animal, it comes from old English, and then pork comes from old French, like from the language that people from Normandy spoke, Old French. So I can teach my students this now because I watched the documentary and I could learn. And then I need to read the entire source material to know how to explain more things. Like, did you know that the word church had over 8 kinds of spelling? Like you could write church in 8 different ways, and then people like, it was like every region in Britain was like writing in a different way. So when people wrote to each other and they lived in different regions, they were not like, they couldn't understand each other, they couldn't understand the letters. So someone started thinking like, we have to like standardize the language, and they were thinking like, how can we make everybody speak how can we make people write the words the same way everywhere? For example, church. If you wrote church in a letter, you would write the way that you know how in your city or region or county, and then you sent to like a cousin who lived like at the other side of the country. Your cousin wrote church in a different way, so he wouldn't understand. So they thought like, how can we standardize it? And then they thought like, oh, let's get the book from a very famous person and standardize the way that this person writes. And then they used Shakespeare books to standardize the way that the words should be written. It's very clever. And then at the same time, another rich man was trying to create the first English dictionary. And then some of the words were standardized the way that this rich man wrote in his dictionary, even though some of the definitions in his dictionary were very wrong. Like, he didn't know the things, but he was trying to create a dictionary anyways. So he could, like, he listened to a word and then he said like to like one of his employees, oh, write this word, but then write this definition. And then he created the definition out of his like imagination. He didn't even know, but he was trying to help standardize because people were writing but they were not understanding what each other, like they were not understanding what the other person was writing, because there wasn't a standard way of writing at that time, like 500 years ago or 600 years ago. So it's interesting to know, like when a student asks me now, like, oh, why do you write church this way? Oh, because somebody decided to look at Shakespeare's book and standardize the way he wrote it because he was already famous. So he was a famous writer when he was alive. His books, like his plays actually, were very famous. So the way he wrote helped create a standard for writing. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. Oh my god, I get very excited about these stories. But yeah, that's it. And another one that I bought in English is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I know that this book's not like it's not originally written in English. I know it's a Russian book. Tolstoy was from Russia, but the copy in Portuguese translated directly from Russia was so expensive. Like, we have a problem here in Brazil sometimes when the translation is very good, the book's very expensive because it's very expensive to pay someone who knows how to translate, for example, from Russian to Portuguese and do it very well. It's very expensive, so the book becomes very expensive. So the copy in English was like a third of the price. So this is like a very I read some reviews about the translation from Russian to English, and this is a very well, like, how can I say that, graded? Like, people say very nice things about this translation into English from Russian. That's why I decided to buy it, because it was very cheap in like Brazilian money, in reais, and also it is a very good translation according to what I've read online. Okay, so this is War and Peace. It's the Oxford World Classics edition. Okay, I want to read this book this year, but I don't know because Les Miserables is taking all of my time. And the last book that I bought in English is Who I Am, My Story by Melanie C. Melanie C is a sporty spice. She's one of the Spice Girls. I love her. She's my favorite. She's always been my favorite since I was a little kid. And she wrote her autobiography. This is the British version. And again, it was cheaper than the American version. And it was cheaper than... No, they don't even translate it into Portuguese yet. We don't even have a Portuguese version yet. So it was so cheap in like Brazil to buy this one. I got like a sale on the Amazon website, so I bought it. It was just like 25 reais for me. 25 reais. If like in dollars, it would be like $5. And it was a new copy. It was like all perfect, and it's a hardcover. Like, can you, like, $5 in Brazil to buy a book is very cheap. Like, it's very, 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 very cheap. It's hardcover. We have like this paper here protecting it. They have like this Spice Girl collage of photos here. So nice. Inside, the edition has like yellow or cream paper. The font is so good, like the size of it, very good to read. And it comes with many photos. Like the middle of the book here, like, can you see the white thing here, the white paper here, and the white paper here? They are all photos. It has like so many photos of her life, her story, you know, like when she was already in the Spice Girls. And here in the beginning of her life, let me show you a little bit more, like when she was like a teenager, and when her career was starting with the Spice Girls. They were so young here. So yes, I am dying to read it. I just have to finish like the books, the 3 books that I'm reading. I'm currently reading Independent People, Anne of Green Gables, and Les Miserables. I don't know how you guys pronounce it in English. I don't speak French. I'm sorry for that. I know I'm murdering this pronunciation right now. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm reading that book. And when I finish that, I will start reading this one, because this is like, I really want to read it. I really want to read it. I love biographies and I love her. Like, this is like the back of the book. So guys, that's it. I hope you could enjoy this video. I hope that I also like stop being embarrassed of recording myself speaking English. I hope you guys could understand me, you know. And yes, I will try to continue like producing videos for this channel. And if you liked this video, please click the like button. It will help me a lot. Subscribe to the channel. And yeah, that's it. If you want to help the channel, I will let in the description of the video a link with my wish list, my Amazon wish list. So if you want to help me in like any shape or form, you can go to my Amazon wish list and send me a book. Like, there are hundreds of books in my list, so any of them will make me very happy. So this is a way that you can help me here, you know. And that's it. Thank you for watching until the end, and we will talk again next video. Bye bye.